122. And the series now 2-1 in favor of the Celtics.
KJ WEEI 617-779-7937. The text line is 37937. Okay, so the Celtics lost game 3. I got to give them kudos for winning the first 2 games at home. You did what you're supposed to do. You have to win game 4 because somewhere you're going to have to win. You're going to have to win on the road just to make a statement to the rest of the Eastern Conference. So I'm not going to completely lose my mind over seeing virtually an out-rebounded team by nearly 2-1 lose a game, which is going to be a problem down the road. I'll get to that in a moment. Still to come in 25 minutes, a $10 parlay that can pay out $2 million plus 6 legs only. It's not like it's an arachnid. You know, Stiz, I don't know if you hear some of these people because it's becoming kind of like a crypto Wild West with some of this stuff. Oh man, I've got a thousand leg parlay for you that can pay you $100 million. It's just kind of like, you know, like 95 of them are not going to hit. 6 legs, $10, potentially $2 million on games tonight. That's at 446. Okay, I'm losing my mind a little bit about the Celtics being out rebounded 48-29 last night. Oof. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And here's what's kind of weird that's happening, and it almost kind of ties to what the knock has been on the Bruins about they've been a little bit too finesse when it gets to the playoffs. I don't need to see the finesse Celtics. I don't need to see that. The difference between this year and last year is that you need to have some of that edge that MA did provide to that team and get back to some defensive mindedness. You know, almost giving up a century and a half of points last night. Yeah, that might be exciting. And here's what really happened. It bought Trae Young probably an additional 3 months there in Atlanta because the talk has been like you're just coming off of this poll that was done by anonymous players in the NBA who was the most overrated NBA player, and Trae Young was the number 1 name mentioned. And then you go into a series, you come back home, you're down 2-0. If they're down 0-3, you know, they may just lay down in the final game. Now they'll compete. But the problem with the Celtics has been a season-long one. You get some long arms and bodies in the middle of the paint, and suddenly all that finessing and that beautiful art, magnificent little French looks like lay poo-poo. And I think Joe Mazulla is going to have to figure out, do you want Rob Williams' energy on the front end where the defense can get you out to a big lead? Or do you want to continue to do that finesse where I've got 3 guards and I've got an older guy who plays the center and Tatum who does most of the rebound? No! Here's Joe Mazulla on the defensive effort last night.
I think the slip-ups came, from their role guys. I thought they, first 2 games, we gave them some open shots that they missed. I thought those guys knocked them down tonight. And then they capitalized on those second chance opportunities for 23 points. And so I thought it was a combination of those 2 things.
No. The tall guy cannot have 4 rebounds in 29 minutes with Al Horford out there. Now, I get Robert Williams. You're still trying to figure out what are the minutes going on. 19 last night, but would those 19 minutes possibly be better served at the beginning of the game than having him come off the bench? Now, Grant Williams, literally got a 100 on his test last night, but how often is that going to happen? You know what you're going to get from the offensive end from Malcolm Brogdon. That's almost a given. But if you're now asking Robert Williams to come off the bench, he may now have to be part of a scoring equation, and that's not his game. Look, I think in the NBA, the Eastern Conference conversation, in fairness, has really been the Bucks, the Celtics, the 76ers, and let's call it what it is. The Knicks in Cleveland are giving us a very exciting game back in the days of 19-inch television. This is those are 19-inch television games you're seeing between New York and Cleveland. Nobody scores over 100, plenty of fouls, a lot of missed shots. Some people say it's the greatest era of basketball. Has its flaws, but it was entertaining on 2 televisions. If the Celtics move forward, and I believe they ultimately will, the 76ers are going to be a problem. You want an interesting note? The Sixers won today without Joel Embiid, and they still out-rebounded the Nets. You think that's not going to be an issue for the Celtics? I know people want to make jokes about Doc Rivers and everything like that. And I've always said, like, hey, you can clown Doc Rivers all you want, but he's not the one that has to go out there and dribble and shoot. And if those guys start to get it together, and if you saw any of that game earlier today, you might have been out running errands, I get it. But my goodness, a Philadelphia team that can go out there and win playoff games without a Joel Embiid and not depend on James Harden for your win? Uh-oh. And out-rebound a team that's got more size. Look, Tatum grabbing 10 rebounds a game is great, but it does nothing if the big guys can't stop other guys from rebounding. Clint Capella, 11 rebounds. John Collins, who's really been disappearing at this whole season, 5 rebounds. Trae Young had 6 rebounds. Devontae Murray had 6 rebounds. Sadiq Bey had 8 rebounds. This is a problem for the Celtics, and it has been through periods of the season, right? Chicago kind of exposed it, but Chicago exposed itself. It wasn't going to be a threat in the playoffs. Cleveland, they exposed it early on, but, Cleveland may not make it to the next round, and if they do, they would face Milwaukee, who's a buzzsaw. Here's Jason Tatum on some of the effort last night.
Jason, I guess down the stretch there were multiple times you could have tied or taken the lead. How tough is it when you're right on the precipice of taking the lead or kind of momentum swing, but can't quite finish there?
How tough is it?
Yeah.
Pretty tough, I guess.
Jeez. In fairness, right, because how can I say this fairly? There's a school of journalists who, I don't call them what they are. They're not really good at journalism. I mean, you hear a question like that, like how tough is it to get a lead back? And the answer is pretty tough. Like, you wasted your question. You missed your shot when you shoot it. Then there's the kind of the entertainment side of it, where it's kind of like, hey, it's just you and I talking. We're in a living room. We're kicking it about sports. I just have to make sure I don't curse when I say it. That was the former, that question right there. The better question was, why is this team giving up 130 points and being out-rebounded by 19 boards? Like, that's the question right there. If you're on the journalist side, what's going on out there that you're the leading rebounder and you guys still get out-rebounded almost 2-1? I know talking about rebounds aren't sexy or anything like that, but you know what they do? They prevent additional possessions. They stop things. Tatum had 2 offensive rebounds. Robert Williams had 2 offensive rebounds. 6 total. Atlanta, 11. 11. So when you're asking the question, how hard is it to come back when you guys end up losing by 8, you could point to the 11 offensive rebounds. There's a chance for 22 points at least right there. On the putbacks, you're giving them up. Now, I'm not here to push a complete panic button. I do not think this Atlanta team represents any real threat to what the Celtics are attempting to do. But you don't think the 76ers laying and waiting? Like, you would never wish injury on anyone, but Joel Embiid, whose back and knees constantly seem to be an issue, what he does do is show up in the big moments. Remember that 20 for 25 he dropped on us? I shouldn't say us. I'm not on the team. You remember the 20 for 25 he dropped on us that paid to see the Celtics play against the 76ers last time? 20 for 25. Why? Nobody could get in his way. And if you're Joe Mazulla, look, okay, I'm not Joe Mazulla. But if I had put myself in his body, I would think, you know what? I want Robert Williams' energy to start the game. If I can get his energy out there, I might be able to get a couple of blocks, a couple of key rebounds, kind of set the tone for the other guys to get up and down the court and do the thing that they do. It is much harder. Let's go back to this question, Scott. It is much harder to come back when you've been hit with the 20-3 run. And the Celtics have been classic with that. But it starts with defense and energy. Now, this isn't anything against Al Horford. He is key. He's been key in so many moments this season, over the last couple of seasons. He even kept the locker room together last year when it was ugly. But now we're in the playoffs. And if you're expecting Al Horford to give you 20 a game, well, you can't necessarily expect that. But can somebody outside of Tatum give me at least 8 to 10 rebounds? Maybe a couple of block shots? Sprinkle in some points there because that changes the tone of the game. The game total doesn't get so high. And that's just one game. I know. I've talked to Boston Panic here, and I'm doing it a little bit right now. But if the Celtics don't tighten it up defensively tomorrow, and you've got a 2-2 game coming back here, oh gosh, well, I won't be here for another month. But you play that shook one's music again because now it's moved over to the Celtics. You're like, what is going on? And unfortunately, that could be more realistic. Capella's a problem in the paint. What's the other guy's name? Okongwu. I don't want to butcher his name. Okongwu. He's a problem in the paint. And he doesn't have to give you a bunch of points to be effective. Sounds like Robert Williams. But if you put Robert Williams out there to put pressure on a Capella could, what if he's 2 fouls quick? That changes the complexity of the game of what they want to do. How do you spend Robert Williams 20 to 22 minutes per game? Off the bench, I think you're wasting time because this is not a guy you're asking to come and score. That's not his game. But if I need him to get me snatch down a couple of rebounds really quick, maybe get a block, turnover early on, that allows for Tatum and for Brown and for Derek White to get off. That's what allows Marcus Smart to be open for shots and hit them. Yeah, Marcus Smart took the second most shots yesterday. Oh. See, that's the little bit of the kind of like, I'm a bit tense. I need a massage about some of this stuff they're doing. It's kind of out there. 617-779-7937. Text line 37937. KJ here on WEEI. I don't know, and I could be wrong. You can call and tell me this. I don't know if the Celtics have that it factor like they did last year that says this team, I believe, can confidently make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. There just feels like something is missing. I'm not going to go the MA route, but if you're giving up 130 points in a playoff game, what do you think MA's speech last night was? Or what you might have been ejected from the game going off on his own players. This is a team that, okay, in the beginning of the season, it was cool. They're averaging 120 a game. They were giving up 112 a game. But what got them to the NBA Finals was giving up 104 a game. And this type of leakage, I'm concerned about, especially when you get to a second round where you're facing a Joel Embiid and James Harden, right? If you line up who the best combos are in the Eastern Conference, duos, I would say it's even or maybe a push between Embiid and Harden as it is with Tatum and Brown. Just because with Embiid, you know that you're going to get the benefit of a great defensive effort. Teams, if you saw what the Nets did to him the other night, they ran double teams at him every night. Every play they ran double teams at Joel Embiid. It happens to Tatum from time to time, but sometimes Tatum helps out the situation by taking the shot from 25 out. Like, we don't need a double team. We just need a rebound because they don't have anybody down there to go get the boards, and Robert Williams hasn't come in the game yet. You see how it all ties together? See, last year, people were like, Philly, Philly was going through this identity situation, the Ben Simmons thing. Harden had come. Harden was hurt. I mean, right now, the way that Philly's going, I don't mean to sound the alarm, but I'm sounding it a little bit. I'm kind of making my way through the North End with this. Is Philly's 3 and 4 are showing up, and ask yourself, could Philly's 3 and 4 players, right? Embiid, Harden, Maxey, Tobias Harris, Maxey and Tobias Harris are starting to show up. Okay, Boston, yeah, Tatum, Brown. Man, we really need a big game from Derek White. Man, Brogdon's really got to hold down the bench. You see what I'm getting at? That I wonder if this team has it to get back to where they were last year.